What obligations do we as a society have to the victims of terrorism and their families?
In the wake of a terrorist attack, there's often a lot of attention on the attacker, on their motives, their background, their stories. And sometimes this can come at the expense of survivors of terrorism. So one of our obligations as a society is to make sure that the victims' voices are being amplified, they're being heard, their stories are being shared, and that all of us don't just focus on the attack.
What ways can the humanitarian and development sector further understand and support these victims?
So one of the first things in this context for us as practitioners and researchers in the humanitarian and development sectors to do is to listen, understand, and give space, and then to engage and empower in a positive, to engage and provide support in a positive and empowering way. So the very first step will always be to understand what the real needs of people who are affected by terrorism are. And research can be really helpful. Research can be really helpful in this context because it can help us understand what the physical, mental, emotional, and financial needs of survivors of terrorism are. We at HEAD, we work a lot with local partners in order to achieve that, because no one knows as best what survivors of terrorism need, and the very people who are affected by it, who live this every day. What is also really important to us is to take an intersectional approach to the topic, because when we look at survivors of terrorism and when we look at the press coverage of terrorism and people affected by it, we often see that there is literally a hierarchy of victims, with white, Western and affluent victims receiving much more attention than brown, black and poor survivors. So this is a point that is really important for us as HEAD, to make sure that we don't just see and support some types of victims, but all of them.